At 17 years old, my entire family vanished while I was out, relocating 2 states away without a word of warning. All they left behind was a note perched on the kitchen counter, its message callous and brief. "You'll figure it out." For over a decade, those 4 words haunted me. By the time they tried to re-enter my life 12 years later, I'd already rebuilt myself from nothing. No thanks to them. Coming home to an emptied house at 17 felt like a punch to the gut. The note they'd left was the cruelest thing I'd ever read. No explanation, no apology, just that cold dismissal. I agonized over what I'd done to deserve it, wondering if they'd finally drop the act of caring. But looking back, the truth was clearer. There'd never been an act to begin with. When I was 13, I spent hours baking my mom a birthday cake from scratch, only for her to sneer at it as clumpy and toss it in the trash. At 15, I stayed up late tutoring my brother for his finals, sacrificing my own study time, but he'd call me a know-it-all freak and slam his door in my face. By 16, I handed my entire first paycheck to my dad to help with bills, only to have him snap at me weeks later when I gently asked if he'd paid them off. "Useless," he'd hissed, as if my effort meant nothing. I was always useful to them, convenient even, but never once loved. They'd planned their escape meticulously. My parents and brother, the only family I had, packed up and fled 2 states over while I was at school. I didn't even realize they were gone until the landlord showed up a week later, demanding I vacate because they'd terminated the lease early. For 3 nights, I crashed on a friend's couch until their parents grew uneasy. After that, I resorted to sleeping in the cramped back corner of a storage unit I'd rented with my last $80, sneaking into the YMCA at dawn to shower and surviving on spoonfuls of peanut butter from a stolen jar. I'd haunt the library during the day, applying for jobs on creaky public computers, forcing smiles and lies whenever anyone asked how I was doing. Eventually, a diner hired me for night shifts as a server. The manager, a no-nonsense woman with a raspy voice, paid me cash under the table until I scraped enough together for a state ID. Once, after a double shift, she let me sleep in the break room when my legs gave out mid-order. I clawed my way forward, bought a prepaid flip phone, hoarded every receipt in a Ziploc bag, and binge-watched grainy YouTube tutorials on budgeting and credit scores. That first year, I teetered on the edge, starving, exhausted, hollow, but I survived. The breakthrough came when a regular customer, an older woman who always ordered black coffee and pie, offered me a temporary gig organizing files at her law office. It paid triple the diner's wages. Suddenly, the fog began to lift. I accepted the temp job without hesitation. That single opportunity became a domino effect. One role led to another, then another. I absorbed every task like a sponge, arriving early, staying late, and peppering supervisors with questions until their patience frayed. By 22, I'd carved out a freelance career, juggling clients from coffee shops. By 25, I'd launched my own consulting business from a thrifted folding table and a laptop borrowed from a sympathetic classmate. At 27, I was managing 5 contractors, leasing a sunlit office downtown, and advising brands I'd once idolized from afar. By 29, I crossed the threshold into millionaire status. Not the hollow, performative kind peddled by social media, but the quiet, tangible sort. A debt-free apartment, a robust retirement fund, health insurance that didn't keep me awake at night. The moment my banking app flickered to 7 figures, I collapsed onto my kitchen floor and sobbed until my ribs ached. All those years, radio silence from my family. Not a birthday text, no holiday card, not even a stray, "How are you?" My brother's face surfaced once in a social media suggestion, a grinning profile photo beside a woman in a white dress. "Married," the caption declared. He still lived in their secret state, the one they'd chosen over me. I clicked through their photos for hours, dissecting his smile for traces of guilt. Did his wife know he had a sister? Did he tell her I'd vanished, or did he erase me entirely? Some nights, I wished I could hate them. Anger would have been simpler, cleaner. But what festered wasn't rage. It was grief. Sharp and unrelenting. Therapy became my anchor. Melissa, my therapist, helped me compile a list of unlikely saviors. Coworkers who'd covered my shifts, a librarian who'd waived late fees, strangers who'd modeled kindness when my own family couldn't. Last week, a podcast episode I recorded about family abandonment went viral. Overnight, my inbox flooded with thousands of messages. Tearful voice notes, essays from strangers who wrote, "You're the first person who gets it," and photos of listeners hugging their screens during my interview. Then, amid the chaos, 2 emails stopped me cold. The first subject line read, "You're still our daughter." My mom's name glared back at me. No greeting, no remorse. Just a sterile 3 sentences about hearing my perspective and opening a dialogue. The second from my brother was terser. "We miss you. Can we fix this?" I read them on loop, my fingers trembling until the words blurred. Was reconciliation about excavating the past or barricading the future? I didn't reply. Melissa urged me to sit with the silence. "Give yourself a week," she said, her voice steady through the Zoom screen. "Feel the anger, the hope, the confusion, all of it. You don't owe them immediacy." I tried to distract myself. buried myself in client meetings, lifted weights until my muscles burned, laughed over sushi with friends. But the emails pulsed like a fresh wound. I'd open them at 2 a.m., dissecting my mom's detached tone. Hearing your side felt like a lab report, not an olive branch, while my brother's plea, though sparse, carried a flicker of vulnerability. The emails gnawed at me relentlessly. After 10 days of sleepless nights, I drafted a reply to my brother. Short, neutral, a litmus test. It's been 12 years. What changed? I sent it before logic could claw the words back. His reply arrived in under an hour. A wall of text claiming the podcast had opened his eyes, that he'd been just a kid at 15, trapped by our parents' decisions. He wrote that he'd stalked my LinkedIn for years, too ashamed to reach out, and that seeing my success filled him with pride. My jaw tightened. Pride? If he'd cared, why wait until I'd gone viral? Why now, when my face splashed across headlines? I fired back the question like a bullet. His next email unraveled further. Excuses about our parents' failed business, his pregnant wife, mounting hospital debts. My stomach twisted as the truth clicked into place. They needed something. I let his message rot in my inbox for another week until my mom escalated, a follow-up laden with attached photos. There I was, gap-toothed at 6, building a lopsided sandcastle. Michael and I mid-laugh, pelting each other with snowballs. Me as a baby swaddled in a blanket she'd knitted. Beneath the nostalgia bomb, she'd typed, "We made mistakes, we want to make amends." Melissa studied the emails in our next session, her brow furrowed. "You hold all the power here," she reminded me, tapping her pen against the printouts. "Boundaries aren't walls, they're drawbridges. You choose who crosses." She suggested closure might free me, whether that meant reconciliation or walking away for good. I nodded, but my chest churned with contradictions, fury warring with curiosity, a child's stubborn hope still whispering, what if they mean it this time? I agreed to meet Michael alone. No parents, no promises. Neutral ground. A Chicago coffee shop midway between our cities. The morning of, I paced my hotel room, rehearsing icy comebacks, then crumpling them. 3 times I nearly texted, "Can't do this," but at 2 p.m., I pushed through the cafe door. He sat by the window, older and softer, his hair thinning but his eyes unchanged. Still that same Hazel I'd stared across the dinner table at for years. He shot to his feet, hands fumbling with his coat buttons. No hug. Just 2 strangers clutching lattes, the air thick with unsaid words. 20 agonizing minutes of "how was your flight?" and traffic wasn't too bad. Then abruptly, his voice cracked. "Emma, I'm so sorry." He stared into his coffee, shoulders hunched. "I didn't know they'd planned to leave you. Not until the moving truck was already packed." "I was too scared to stand up to them," he said, his voice fraying at the edges. I studied him like a forensic analyst, the tremor in his hands, the way his gaze darted to the sugar packets as he spoke. Seemed sincere, but sincerity had burned me before. I leveled the question that had calcified in my bones over 12 years. Why me? Why was I the one they left? He winced, fingers tightening around his cup. "They always saw you as the strong one, the independent one. They told themselves you'd be fine on your own." His laugh was bitter. "Like you were some stray cat who'd land on its feet. They thought you didn't need them like I did. Convinced themselves you'd thrive without us." The absurdity of it clawed up my throat. I recounted the storage unit's damp chill, the peanut butter spoon trembling in my hand, the YMCA showers where I'd scrub my skin raw to feel human. His face collapsed, a slow-motion avalanche of guilt. "I didn't know," he whispered, tears smudging his glasses. "They said you had a plan, that you wanted to stay, that you'd chosen." Chosen? The word tasted like ash. By the time we stood to leave, my resolve had splintered. He fumbled through photos of his daughter. Clara, she's 3 next month, and his wife's beaming pregnancy scan. He mentioned his accounting job, asked polite questions about my firm, and carefully avoided the elephant in the room. Money. When he pulled me into a hug, I went rigid, arms glued to my sides, my nose filled with the unfamiliar scent of his cologne. Back at the hotel, Melissa dissected every word. "His remorse seems real," she conceded, "but he's still centering his pain." I was scared. They lied to me. "He's 27 now, Emma. Old enough to have questioned this long before your podcast." Her words crystallized what I'd felt but couldn't name. His apology was a hall of mirrors, reflecting his guilt but never mine. That night, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I knew before answering. Her voice crackled through the line, older, weaker, a ghost of the woman who'd called my cake clumpy. She wept when I said hello, rambling about pride, my resilience, how special I'd always been. I let her exhaust her script before repeating my question. Why me? Silence. Then cold calculus. We were drowning in debt. 3 mouths, we couldn't afford it. You were the smart one. We thought you'd go to social services, get placed with a real family. A jagged laugh escaped her. We thought we were doing you a favor. The phone shattered against the wall before I realized I'd thrown it. I screamed into a pillow until my throat bled, until the hotel security knocked to ask if I was okay in there. Dawn brought an email from an address I didn't recognize. My father's first contact in 12 years. The subject line: "Let's talk." My father's email contained no apology, only a ledger of their suffering. He detailed bankrupt businesses, his daughter-in-law's spinal surgery, the eviction notice taped to their door. The final line was a gut punch. "We're hoping you can help the family now." Not a word about my life, my pain, the chasm they'd carved. I forwarded it to Melissa with the subject. And there it is. She called within minutes, her tone sharp with urgency even on her day off. We dissected it all: the toxicity of obligation, the narcotic lure of forgiveness, the razor-thin line between compassion and self-destruction. "What do you want?" she pressed, until the answer clawed its way out: "To stop drowning in their undertow." By Monday, my reply to Michael was drafted: clinical, precise. I acknowledged his difficult position as a teen, expressed openness to rebuilding our relationship, not theirs, and laid down ironclad terms: no money, no loans, no contact with our parents until they own every lie. His response arrived in under an hour: "I'm really disappointed, Emma. Family supports each other. You're hoarding your success like a dragon." The old guilt flared: selfish, ungrateful, cold. But I let it burn out. Instead, I booked a sunrise flight to Bali and a double session with Melissa. 3 days later, as I packed sandals and sunscreen, Michael's voicemail arrived. Shaky breaths, a stammered apology. "I overstepped. I'll respect your boundaries. I want to try." I replayed it on the tarmac, dissecting each pause. Was this growth or just a new strategy? I muted his contact, but kept the door cracked. One last chance, with barbed wire coiled around my heart. Bali was saltwater and silence. Mornings spent tracing temple shadows, afternoons wading through emerald rice paddies, nights writing unsent letters in the sand. For the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of empty houses or crumpled notes. Returning home, reality struck. 6 emails from my father, subject lines escalating from urgent to "please, Emma." I dragged them to trash unread. Beneath the digital carnage, a text from Michael: "Can we talk?" We settled on a call. No cameras, no commitments. He surprised me. His voice softer, less rehearsed. Therapy's forcing me to see things. How complicit I was. We talked about his daughter's first steps, my upcoming conference in Tokyo, normalcy draped over the abyss. Then, casually, like mentioning rain: "Mom and Dad are visiting next weekend. They want to see the baby." The air left my lungs. Of course, boundaries are porous when grandchildren enter the chat. "Would you at least consider meeting them? Just for coffee somewhere public?" Michael's question coiled around my ribs like a vice. I gripped the phone until my knuckles whitened. "I'm not ready," I said, each syllable a shard of glass. He pressed: "They're getting older, Emma," but retreated when my silence turned glacial. The second I hung up, I dialed Melissa. She squeezed me into an emergency session that evening, her office dim except for the amber glow of her desk lamp. "You're not afraid of them," she said gently, her reflection sharp in the window behind her. "You're afraid of the part of you that still wants to hand them a scorecard, that still needs them to say, 'Good job, kid. You're enough.'" I shattered. Ugly, heaving sobs that left my sweater damp and Melissa's tissue box empty. Pathetic, I thought. 30 years old and still starving for scraps from people who'd let me rot. The next morning, Michael's text buzzed like a wasp. "Mom cried all night. Dad's talking about driving to your city. They're determined. Panic surged. Hot. Electric." I blocked his number, then emailed my assistant. Migraine, WFH all week, and barricaded myself inside my apartment. Groceries arrived in brown paper bags I didn't open. Wednesday. A call from the doorman. "Couple here asking for you. Won't give names." Ice flooded my veins. "No visitors," I rasped. 5 minutes later, my phone erupted. Unknown number. The voicemail was my father's voice, jagged with fury. "We drove 8 hours, Emma. Quit acting like a brat. We deserve this." I deleted it, powered off my phone, and stared at the wall until sunset. Thursday's dawn broke with fists hammering my door. I lurched upright, sheets tangled, heart slamming. The peephole warped their faces, but I'd know them anywhere. Mom's perm grown wiry, Dad's shoulders stooped. "Emma, please," Mom pleaded through the wood. "We love you. We're sorry." Dad's knuckles rapped again, louder. "We know you're in there." I slid to the floor, back pressed to the wall, arms locked around my knees. Their shadows lingered under the doorframe, whispering until footsteps finally retreated. The security guard's voice wavered when I called. "They're banned, Miss Carter. Should I file a report?" "Just keep them out," I whispered. Melissa arrived at noon, takeout bag in hand. We ate turkey sandwiches on my balcony, the city humming below. "Harassment isn't love," she said, crumpling her napkin. "You're not a vault they get to crack open because they've decided they want what's inside." That night, Michael's email blazed across my screen. "You humiliated them. They're sleeping in a motel that reeks of mildew because of you. Sarah's surgery is next month. Have some fucking mercy. I closed the laptop, my hands steady for the first time in days. Friday, I texted Rachel, the friend who'd smuggled me leftovers in high school when my parents forgot groceries. Her reply was instant. Portland's rainy. Pack a hoodie. I booked the next flight, tossing clothes into a suitcase as dawn pinked the sky. Rachel had let me crash on her couch for a week back when I was 17, shielding me from the storage unit's chill. Her loyalty was a compass. I was hurling sweaters into my suitcase when my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. Ignored. 10 minutes later, the doorman's voice crackled through the intercom. Miss Carter, there's a woman downstairs. Says she's your mother. She's, having some kind of episode. My stomach lurched. Call an ambulance if she needs help, I said, cold and clipped. I'm not coming down. He hesitated, then muttered, Yes, ma'am, like I'd ordered a hit. I zipped my suitcase, waited an hour, then crept downstairs. The lobby was sterile and silent, sunlight glinting off marble floors. No parents, no drama. Just the doorman's sidelong glance as I passed. Ambulance took her to Memorial. He offered, voice tinged with judgment. Chest pains, they said. I nodded, jaw clenched, and slid into the Uber. At the airport, Michael's call erupted through my headphones. I almost swiped decline, but muscle memory betrayed me. Mom had a heart attack. He sobbed. She's in surgery. This is your fucking fault. The terminal blurred. I hung up, then dialed Melissa, my fingers trembling. Am I a monster? I whispered. Emma, she said, steel in her voice. You are not their emotional paramedic. This is coercion, not crisis. Breathe. Board that plane. Rachel met me at PDX with a bear hug and a thermos of spiked cider. That night, sprawled on her couch, I spilled everything. The pounding on my door, the hospital photo, the guilt gnawing my ribs. She remembered the girl who'd shown up on her porch at midnight with a trash bag of clothes, eyes hollow as a ghost. They don't get to rewrite history, she snarled, refilling my wine glass. You owe them nothing. Sunday night, my dad's email pierced the calm. Mom's stable, stent installed, home Tuesday. Then the kicker. She's asking for you. Haven't we suffered enough? Rachel snorted, rolling her eyes so hard I feared retinal detachment. Classic emotional arson. Burn it. Monday, I returned home to roses propped against my door. Blood red, thorned, the card a command. Call us. Holiday Inn until wed. No remorse. No, we respect your boundaries. Just entitlement wrapped in cellophane. I lobbed them down the trash chute, petals scattering like confetti at a funeral. Tuesday's text was a gut punch, a photo of Mom gaunt and tubed, captioned, Time's running out. Live with this regret. My thumb hovered over block, heart thrashing. Melissa's voice replayed, Silence isn't cruelty, it's survival. I blocked the number, then dialed her, my voice steadier than I felt. Detox, she urged. New number. Social media purge. Crash with Rachel again if you need to. I opened my laptop, booked a month-long rental in Costa Rica, and began drafting an auto-reply. Emma Carter is currently unreachable. Try accountability instead. I agreed to Melissa's plan, called my assistant, 2 weeks remote, emergencies only, and began repacking my suitcase. But before I could zip it shut, the intercom buzzed again. The doorman's voice frayed with discomfort. There's a woman here, Miss Carter, says she's your sister-in-law. Had a little girl with her. Cornered, they'd weaponized a toddler. Send her up, I said, my voice colder than I'd intended. If they wanted to fight, I'd arm myself with truth. The woman at my door looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, hoodie stained with what might have been applesauce, hair in a frazzled bun, a toddler drooling on her shoulder. I'm Jenny, she said, shifting the girl's weight. Michael's wife. I came alone. No games. I let her in, my throat tight. She sank onto the couch, cradling her daughter like a porcelain doll, and I handed her a glass of water. She drank it in one go. Lily's 3, she whispered, tucking a blanket around the sleeping girl. She's a heavy sleeper, thank God. At the kitchen table, Jenny unspooled her story. Michael told me you'd run away. Said you were troubled. I believed him until your podcast. Her fingers twisted her wedding band. When I confronted him, he broke down. Admitted everything. I'm so sorry, Emma. What they did, it's monstrous. I stared at her, wary. Why are you here? She met my gaze, unflinching. Because you deserve the truth. Your parents, they've been lying to everyone. Her phone glowed between us, screen cracked. Facebook posts bloomed like poison. Day 478 without our Emma. Please share if you've seen her. Mental health crisis, maybe dangerous. Posted 2 years after they'd left me. Our savings stolen by someone we trusted, pray for justice. Dad's profile 2015. A GoFundMe for a private investigator to track their missing daughter, littered with comments. You're such brave parents. The dates gutted me, all fabricated after they'd erased me. They admitted it, Jenny said, her voice quaking. When I threatened to expose them, they're panicking now. Your podcast got their church friends asking questions. Lily stirred, her curls catching the lamplight. Jenny scooped her up, pressing a kiss to her temple. "This one's due in June," she said, gesturing to her rounded belly. "I want them to know their aunt, but only if you want that. No strings, no guilt." She stood, slinging a diaper bag over her shoulder. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, just think about it." At the door, she hesitated. "For what it's worth. You're nothing like they said. You're magnificent." The elevator dinged, swallowing her and Lily whole. I locked the door, slid to the floor, and sobbed. Not for the family I'd lost, but for the one that might, against all odds, be waiting to be found. The silence after Jenny left pressed down on me like a lead blanket. I sat motionless for hours, the echoes of her words ricocheting in my skull. Magnificent, she'd called me. A label that felt foreign yet fragile, like a moth's wing in my palm. When I finally dialed Melissa, my voice sounded disembodied, as if someone else were recounting Jenny's confession. Melissa's response was calm, almost clinical. "Abusers rewrite history to survive their own shame. They'll paint themselves as martyrs if it keeps their secrets buried." She paused, then asked the question that hollowed me out. "What do you need now?" I had no answer. That night, my inbox delivered another grenade. This time from my father. Subject line: "Cease and desist." His email seethed with venom. "Take down your slanderous podcast or we'll bury you in court. We have proof you stole from us. Retract your lies publicly, compensate us for defamation, or we'll leak our side to the press." Attached were grainy scans of old check stubs with forged endorsements, my teenage signature clumsily mimicked. My hands shook as I forwarded it to Melissa and Marcus, my lawyer, a man whose voice could steady a hurricane. Marcus called within minutes. "This is theater," he said, the click of his keyboard punctuating his words. "Truth is Kevlar in defamation cases. Save every email, but don't engage. Bullies rarely follow through." I nodded, mute, tracing phantom ache in my chest where hope used to flutter. The next morning, Michael's voicemail clawed through the quiet. "Emma, Jenny told me she came to you. Mom and Dad are unhinged. They're calling her a traitor, spreading rumors at her job. I'm scared they'll just call Jenny's number, okay? Not mine." His panic felt tangible, a live wire left sparking on wet pavement. I phoned Marcus's again, my breath shallow. "Let's meet them," he suggested. "Neutral ground. I'll be your shadow." We chose a corner booth at a dimly lit bistro near Marcus's office, the air thick with the scent of burnt espresso. Michael and Jenny arrived looking like survivors of a storm. Jenny's sleeve tugged stubbornly over a yellowing bruise, Michael's collar askew, his gaze darting like a hunted animal. Marcus introduced himself with a firm handshake, and Michael flinched as if struck. Over bitter coffee, their story unfurled. My parents, parasitic and vindictive, had leeched off Michael for years. They'd borrow rent money, then trash our parenting. Jenny spat, her composure fraying. When she'd confronted them about me, my father had grabbed her arm, leaving fingerprints and purple blooms. "I threw them out that night," Michael muttered, tears cutting tracks through his stubble. "They showed up at my office, called child services with fake tips. I'm trapped, Em. I'm so fucking sorry." Marcus leaned forward, a shark in a tailored suit. "Do they have keys to your home? Joint bank accounts?" His pen hovered over a legal pad, etching their trauma into bullet points. Jenny shook her head, clutching her belly. "We changed the locks, closed the accounts." I watched my brother fracture across the table, his sobs muffled by the clatter of dishes. The boy who'd slammed doors in my face was gone, replaced by a ghost haunted by the same puppeteers. Jenny reached for his hand, her wedding band glinting like a weapon. "We're done lying," she said, her voice steel. "Whatever you need from us. Testimony, records, it's yours." Marcus slid a card across the table. "Restraining orders take 48 hours. I'll file today." I left the restaurant numb, the autumn air sharp as a scalpel. Somewhere above us, the sky split open, releasing a cold, purifying rain. Michael's voice trembled as he answered Marcus's questions, each revelation peeling back another layer of the chokehold our parents had on his life. "They co-signed the mortgage," he admitted, staring at his hands as if they'd betrayed him. "Dad's still on my college checking account. They have spare keys, know my email passwords, my security questions." His words dissolved into a shuddering breath, and Jenny gripped his shoulder, her knuckles white. Marcus scribbled notes, his brow furrowed, occasionally glancing at me with a look that said, "This is worse than we thought." By the end, the air in the booth felt thick with the weight of their entanglements. Financial, emotional, a spiderweb of control spun over decades. Marcus slid a colleague's business card across the table, its edges crisp against the smudged coffee rings. "Change everything," he said, his tone broking no argument. "Locks, passwords, bank accounts, tonight." Michael and Jenny nodded, their faces pale but resolute, clutching the card like a lifeline. As we stood to leave, Michael hesitated, then pulled me into an awkward embrace. His arms were rigid at first, as if bracing for rejection, but when I leaned in, just slightly, his grip tightened. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a fragile truce, A silent pact between two survivors who'd crawled from the same wreckage. That night, my phone lit up like a strobe light. Texts from unknown numbers vomiting threats in all caps. You turned him against us. We made you. You'll regret this. I blocked each one, my thumb tapping with mechanical precision, but their words clung like smoke. I called Jenny, needing to hear her voice to anchor myself in the present. We're safe, she assured me, though exhaustion frayed her words. Change the locks. Staying at a friend's. Restraining order paperwork starts tomorrow. Relief flickered, but dread pooled in my stomach, a primal knowing that the storm wasn't over. Dawn broke with Jenny's scream through the phone. They broke in. They took everything. Her voice spiraled into hysterics. Lily's baby photos, birth certificates, Michael's laptop, a note scrawled in our mother's looping script. Family matters should stay in the family. I threw on clothes, called Marcus mid-sprint to my car, and raced to their neighborhood, where a patrol car idled crookedly in the driveway. Inside, chaos reigned. Drawers yawned open, their contents spewed across the floor like gutted entrails. Michael sat slumped on the couch, head in hands, while Jenny jabbed a finger at gaps on the shelves. Photo albums, tax files, the spare car key? Her voice sharp as shattered glass. The officer, a bored man with a clipboard, eyed me as I claimed kinship. Grandparents, huh? He smirked. Sure they didn't just use a key? Family squabbles get messy. Jenny shoved up her sleeve, thrusting her bruised arm into the light. Does this look messy enough? She snapped. He scribbled half-heartedly, muttering about lack of evidence, and left with a shrug. We sifted through the wreckage in silence, unearthing more absences. Lily's first ultrasound, Jenny's passport, a jar of coins meant for Disneyland. Michael's voice cracked like dry timber. My fault. I should have stopped them years ago. Should have found you sooner. I said nothing. Blame had lost its taste. We were past that now. Two ghosts tending each other's wounds. Marcus arrived as daylight faded, his polished shoes crunching over scattered papers. This escalates things, he said, scanning the ransacked room. Breaking and entering, theft. We document every detail. Photos, timestamps, witness statements. He pointed at Michael and Jenny. Crash at a hotel. Emma, you too. I'll file for emergency orders at dawn. Jenny hugged Lily's stuffed elephant to her chest, its fur matted with tears. And then what? Marcus's smile was a blade. Then we bury them. We nodded, too hollowed out to protest. Jenny stuffed duffel bags with clothes and Lily stuffed animals, while Michael and I prowled the house like soldiers fortifying a bunker, twisting new deadbolts into place, hammering screws into window locks, debating camera angles and hissed whispers. It felt grotesque, treating our parents like home invaders, but necessity had sanded down the edges of disbelief. They'd become strangers with familiar faces, and the line between family and threat had dissolved. As we hauled bags to the car, Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Dad. We're watching you. The screen glowed in the dusk, 3 words sharp as shrapnel. His hands trembled so violently I had to steady them to screenshot the message for Marcus. They're not stopping, Michael whispered, and something in his voice, a child's terror, raw and unhealed, made the decision for me. You're staying with me, I said, the words leaving my mouth before I could weigh them. My building has security. Doormen, cameras. Jenny's shoulders sagged with relief. Michael just stared at the pavement, mute with shame. That night, my sterile apartment transformed. Cartoons blared from the TV as Lily sprawled on the rug, stacking blocks with the intensity of a tiny architect. Jenny and I spread takeout containers across the coffee table. No mine, dumplings, a riot of soy sauce packets, while Michael paced the balcony, phone pressed to his ear, relaying details to Marcus. We mapped out survival like generals. Restraining orders, encrypted emails, burner phones, the nuclear option of vanishing to a new city. We could sell the house, Jenny said, picking at her noodles. Start fresh. Somewhere they can't find us. They'll find us, Michael muttered. But Jenny shot him a look that silenced the words midair. It should have felt wrong. This fractured tableau of the brother who'd let me drown, the sister-in-law who'd swallowed lies, and the niece who'd inherited our mess. But there was a perverse rightness to it, too. We were survivors huddled around a campfire, feeding the flames with every truth we'd unearthed. Morning brought Marcus's call. Emergency restraining orders filed, a court date set, a detective assigned to the break-in. Stay together, he ordered. Isolation is their weapon. I cleared out my guest room for Michael, his laptop blinking awake amid my spare pillows. Jenny and Lily colonized the living room, their laughter seeping under doors, their crayon masterpieces taped to my pristine walls. Chaos bloomed in my ordered world. Toys underfoot, dishes in the sink, the sweet sour tang of toddler shampoo in the bathroom. And yet, beneath the clamor, a fragile warmth took root. Lily's giggles during bath time, Jenny's off-key lullabies, even Michael's muttered curses at his spreadsheet. They wove a new rhythm, a heartbeat where silence had festered. The illusion cracked that afternoon, the doorman's voice through the intercom. Flowers for you, Miss Carter. Read the card, I barked, pulse roaring. He cleared his throat. We know where you all are. This isn't over. The words slithered through the speaker, venomous and slick. Refuse them, I said, steady now, ice in my veins. Call the police if the courier argues. Marcus's voice, when I reached him, was grimly satisfied. Perfect. Adds to the pattern. We'll bury them in paper. I hung up and leaned against the fridge, listening to Lily's squeals as Jenny chased her through the hallway. The fear still lingered, a shadow at the edges, but it no longer choked. We were a mosaic of broken pieces now, cracked, mismatched, but fused together. And for the first time, I dared to hope we might hold. I kept the flowers a secret. Michael and Jenny didn't need more ghosts haunting them. That night, I channeled my dread into chopping vegetables for stir-fry, the rhythmic thunk of the knife steadying my hands. We ate at the dining table, Lily giggling as she chased peas around her plate, Jenny recounting a silly work story, Michael forcing laughs that didn't reach his eyes. Normalcy as armor. But after midnight, when the apartment hummed with the shallow breaths of sleep, I slumped at the kitchen island, a dish towel muffling silent sobs. Grief isn't linear. It's a storm surge, crashing waves of rage, fear, the jagged what-ifs that clawed at my ribs. I cried for the girl who'd slept in a storage unit, for the brother who'd been groomed into a coward, for the parents who'd weaponized love. Jenny found me at dawn, clutching a cold mug of coffee. You okay? She asked, though we both knew the answer. Her eyes, shadowed, sleepless, mirrored mine. Michael cries in the shower, she admitted, slicing bananas for Lily's cereal. Lily keeps asking when the bad people will stop. We're all faking it. She paused, her voice softening. But faking it together, that counts for something. I studied her. This fierce stranger who dismantled her own life to side with truth. Why, I blurted. Why risk everything for me? She wiped her hands on a towel, slow and deliberate. When Michael told me you'd run away, I pictured a rebel. But your podcast? You sounded like someone who'd been pushed. My girls can't grow up thinking family is a cage. Her smile was a flicker of light in the dark. Breaking cycles starts with believing the pushed, not the pushers. We hugged awkwardly over the counter, her flour-dusted apron brushing my wrist. Not quite family, not yet allies, but a beginning. The days blurred into a fragile rhythm. Marcus's terse updates, Lily's cartoons blaring over tense phone calls, Michael jumping at every delivery knock. We existed in limbo. Safe, but not free. Together, but still strangers to our own courage. Then, Friday, Marcus's call cut through the fog. Gas station footage, he said, triumph sharpening his tone. Their license plate, timestamped during the break-in. Restraining orders are a lock. Relief pooled in my chest, thin and fleeting. Threats don't dissolve with legal paper. That night, a crash shattered the garage's silence. Michael's car sat gaping, glass teeth littering the pavement. Security tapes showed a figure in a Rocky's cap. Shoulders broad, gait familiar, but no face. No proof, only certainty. Sunday, we rehearsed for court like actors scripting a tragedy. Wear navy, it's authoritative, Jenny insisted, pacing with Lily on her hip. Stick to facts, not feelings, Marcus warned. We dissected our parents like lab specimens, manipulative, calculating, dangerous, words that turned blood ties to ash. As we debated, my phone lit up. Last chance, Mom's email. My finger hovered over delete, but curiosity is a grenade pin. The message hissed with venom. If you go to court tomorrow, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I read it aloud. The room stilled. Jenny snatched the phone, her face hardening. They're scared. That's our win. Michael stared at his shoes. They'll never stop. Then we outlast them, I said, the words settling like a vow. We sat in the quiet, Lily's head heavy on my shoulder, her breath warm against my collarbone. Dawn would come. So would the courtroom. And for the first time, we'd face the storm not as fragments, but as a front. Marcus's jaw tightened as he read the email aloud at the dinner table, Lily's crayons frozen mid-scribble nearby. Last chance, he repeated, snapping a screenshot with surgical precision. Perfect. They've handed us the final nail. He warned us not to engage, but the threat hummed in the air like live wire, poisoning the taste of the pasta Jenny had cooked. That night, sleep was a taunting stranger. I paced my apartment, testing locks, peering through blinds, flinching at every creak of the building's bones. Michael camped on the couch, his phone glowing with Reddit threads about home security. Jenny rocked Lily in the guest room, humming lullabies that cracked mid-chorus. We were a chorus of frayed nerves, suspended between dread and resolve. Dawn arrived cloaked in an eerie stillness. We dressed like soldiers armoring for battle, blazers buttoned, shoes polished, hair tamed into submission. Jenny's hands shook as she fastened Lily's tiny backpack for her babysitter. No cartoons about monsters, she whispered, kissing her daughter's head. We took separate cars, a tactical spread of risk, and met Marcus on the courthouse steps. He stood like a monolith, briefcase in hand, his voice a low rumble. Stay calm. Stick to the script. This judge doesn't suffer fools. Then I saw them. My parents loitered near the entrance, their shapes diminished as if life had sanded them down to husks. Mom's perm had grown wild, her floral dress hanging loose. Dad's spine curved like a question mark. When Mom lurched toward me, Dad yanked her back, his fingers digging into her arm, a mirror of Jenny's bruise. Their eyes followed us, sharp with fury and something raw, almost feral. Fear? Shame? I fixed my gaze ahead, breathing in the courthouse's antiseptic chill, my heels clicking a staccato rhythm on marble floors. Inside, we filed into rows of scarred wooden benches, the air thick with the musk of old paper and desperation. I felt my parents settle behind us, their whispers hissing like static. Don't turn around. Marcus had drilled it into us. Eyes forward, they're ghosts now. The judge, a woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing, called our case. We rose, a united front, while Marcus laid out our evidence like a coroner dissecting a corpse. Timestamps, screenshots, the gas station footage, the brick-shattered glass. The judge's brow furrowed as she scanned the abandonment records, my childhood lease agreement, the landlord's testimony. And the minor was left without resources? She asked, her voice flint. Yes, Your Honor. She lived in a storage unit, Marcus said, glancing at me. I nodded, my throat bone dry. Then it was their turn. My parents shuffled forward, no lawyer, just Dad's frayed blazer and Mom's crumpled Kleenex. Dad's voice wavered as he spun his tale. Misunderstandings, family drama, we love our kids. He painted us as ingrates, me as a runaway, the break-in as a prank. Mom sniffled theatrically, dabbing dry eyes. The judge steepled her fingers. Security footage places your vehicle at the scene. Explain. Stolen plates, Dad blurted, too quick. Framed by God knows who. Her gaze shifted to me, then back. And abandoning your daughter at 17? Leaving her homeless? Dad's facade cracked. We had no choice. Debts, the recession. The judge's pen froze. You left a child, you fled. Mom's tissue fell to the floor. Dad's throat bobbed, silent. In that pause, I felt it. The tectonic shift. Not victory, not yet, but the first fracture in their empire of lies. The judge's gavel fell with a crack that echoed through the courtroom, sealing their fate. 3 years of court-ordered silence. No contact. No third-party messages. No lingering within 500 feet of our homes, our offices, the parks where Lily played. Violations meant handcuffs, cells, consequences they'd spent a lifetime dodging. My parents stood frozen, Mom's tissue crumpled in her fist, Dad's face slack, stunned as if the world had finally refused to spin their way. We filed out, their eyes drilling into our backs. Emma, Mom's voice, thin as smoke. I kept walking, my heels biting the polished floor, each step shedding a layer of the girl who'd once ached for that voice to say, I'm sorry. The sunlight outside felt alien. Too bright, as if we'd emerged from a cave after decades. Marcus clasped our hands, his grip firm. Solid orders, he said, but stay sharp. People like them don't fold, they regroup. Michael pulled me into a hug, his tears hot against my neck. I'm sorry, he choked, for every second I didn't fight for you. I held him tighter, smelling coffee and fear on his shirt. We're okay now, I lied, because hope is sometimes a necessary fiction. The text came as we reached the parking lot, a number I didn't recognize, a photo that turned my blood to ice. Lily in a sunflower sundress, digging in her friend's sandbox, unaware of the lens trained on her. Below it, this isn't over yet. Michael. I thrust the phone at him. His face drained to chalk. Jenny answered his call mid-scream. I'm already in the car. Oh God, oh God. We reconvened in my apartment, the air thick with panic. Jenny rocked Lily in the corner, her knuckles white against the toddler's curls. They saw her, she whispered over and over. Michael paced like a caged animal, muttering curses into his fists. Marcus arrived with cops in tow, a stone-faced duo who took notes, nodded, promised extra patrols. We'll check the friend's house, one said, tapping the photo into his tablet. Trace the number. Their assurances felt flimsy, bureaucratic band-aids on a hemorrhage. When they left, Marcus lingered. This is a violation. We'll nail them. His confidence did little to thaw the dread pooling in my gut. Jenny finally loosened her grip on Lily, who squirmed free to stack blocks, oblivious. What if they... Jenny's voice frayed. They won't. Michael's jaw hardened, a new steel in his eyes. Not again. I studied them. Jenny's tear-streaked resolve, Michael's clenched fists, Lily's innocent hum, and felt the tectonic plates of my life shift. Family wasn't blood. It was the hands that pulled you from rubble, the voices that said, not today, the bodies that became shields. We'll take shifts tonight, I said, tossing pillows and blankets into a fort for Lily. Sleep in the living room. Together. Jenny nodded, exhaustion and fury warring in her gaze. Together. As dusk bled into night, we huddled on the floor, Lily's head in my lap, her breath soft as moth wings. The threat still loomed sharp and hungry, but so did we. Broken, braced, and blazing. The police left with platitudes and paperwork, their dismissive nods lingering like a bad taste. They didn't understand. How could they? My parents weren't stalkers in a true crime documentary. They were architects of ruin, masters of plausible deniability. Their cruelty wore masks of concern, their threats folded into birthday cards. We collapsed onto the couch, our adrenaline souring into helplessness. Jenny suggested aliases and highway motels, her voice fraying at the edges. Michael fixated on his cousin's guest room 2 states over, pacing like a man trying to outwalk his ghosts. I sat silent, rage simmering beneath my skin. A molten, unfamiliar thing. This is bullshit. The words erupted before I could cage them. We followed every rule. We won. And they're still winning. Jenny flinched, clutching Lily's stuffed rabbit. Michael froze mid-pace. What's your plan? He asked, wary. Stop letting them puppet us. I stood, the room tilting with the gravity of it. They stole my childhood. They don't get my life. We took shifts that night, the apartment's windows dark as a tomb. My vigil began at the living room ledge, the city's pulse thrumming through glass. At 2:03 a.m., headlights carved arcs through the fog. A rusted Buick, its bumper dented in the shape of my teenage memories. Dad's car. It prowled the block, slow and predatory, before parking across the street. Through my phone's zoom, I captured his silhouette. Hunched, motionless, eyes fixed on my building like a sniper. Technicality, Marcus said at dawn, reviewing the photos. He's 501 feet away. No violation. Jenny and Michael fled to a hotel, Lily's backpack stuffed with goldfish and fear. Alone, I traced the cracks in my apartment's walls, fissures I'd never noticed, and called Melissa. What do you want from them? She asked, her question a scalpel. The list came in jagged scrawl. Breathe without flinching at doorbells. Be Aunt Emma, not a hostage negotiator. Stop waiting for their grenades to detonate. Burn the archives of my past. No forgiveness, no closure, just freedom. The email drafted itself, reckless and raw. Meet me tomorrow. Noon. 8 St. Coffee. Just us. After this, you vanish. Forever. I hit send before logic could intervene. No lawyers, no safety nets, just me and the monsters who made me, armed with nothing but the truth. This ended today. Dad's terse reply, we'll be there, landed like a verdict. I spent the evening rehearsing truths I'd buried for years, sharpening each word into a blade. Sleep came unnervingly easy, as if my bones knew this was the final battle. Morning arrived brittle and bright. I dressed in a tailored blazer, the fabric stiff as armor, and rode to the cafe in silence. The place smelled of burnt beans and lemon cleaner, empty except for a barista scrolling TikTok. I chose the rear booth, its vinyl cracked like a dried riverbed, and nursed a cold brew I had no intention of drinking. They slunk in at noon, shadows of the tyrants I remembered. Mom's perm had gone frizzy, her cardigan swallowing her frame. Dad's neck bulged over a too-tight collar, his face mapped with new crevices. They hesitated at the door, scanning the room like fugitives, before shuffling to my table. No hello, no pretense, just 3 strangers orbiting a black hole of history. I'm not here to reconcile, I said, voice steady, or to fund your lies. I'm here to tell you this ends now. You've lost. Not just the court, you've lost us. Michael, Jenny, your grandkids. All of it. Dad's jaw twitched. I'm not done. I slid my phone between us, its screen alight with their threats. Lily's sandbox photo, the brick through glass. Last chance burning red. Copies of these are ready to send to your pastor, your neighbors, your boss at the hardware store. 1 click and your precious reputation becomes kindling. Mom's tears fell fat and practiced. We just want to die surrounded by family. You had a family. The words left me cold, clinical. You left it in a storage unit. Dad's fist hit the table, rattling mugs. Ungrateful brat, we fed you, housed you, you owe us. A laugh tore out of me, sharp and unkind. Owe you. For what? The birthday cake Mom called clumpy? The nights I worked double shifts to pay your bills? The landlord who found me sobbing in an empty apartment? I leaned in, close enough to smell his Old Spice and her rosewater lies. You want gratitude? Here's some. Thank you for teaching me how to survive you. Silence pulled around us. Mom's tissue shredded in her lap. Dad's neck blotched crimson. I stood, buttoning my blazer. Next time you breathe near us, I won't call the cops. I'll bury you in the court of public opinion. You'll be pariahs. Broke, alone, and you'll deserve it. Emma, Mom's wail chased me to the door, a sound that once would have cracked me open. I didn't turn. Didn't hesitate. The bell jingled overhead and sunlight hit my face like an absolution. Do you really hate us that much? Her voice cracked like a porcelain doll dropped on concrete. I turned, my hand on the cafe door, and met her tear-swollen gaze. I don't hate you, I said, the words crisp as frost. Hate would mean you still matter. You're ghosts, and ghosts don't get to haunt me anymore. Sunlight hit my face as I stepped outside, the weight of 12 years dissolving like sugar in rain. I called Michael from the curb, his panic melting into weary relief. Jesus, Em. But hell, someone had to. His laugh was ragged, grateful. Wish I'd done it a decade ago. At the hotel, Lily barreled into my legs, her Auntie Emma, a grenade of joy that nearly buckled me. Jenny's hug was a vice, her whisper fierce. You're free. Michael's grip on my shoulder said what words couldn't. Thank you. Sorry, I'm here. We spent days in limbo, flinching at elevator dings, dissecting every headlight. But the silence held. No texts, no phantom Buicks, just the hum of the AC and Lily's cartoons bleeding through walls. A month later, Michael's family reclaimed their home. New locks, cameras bolted like sentries. For sale signs staked in the yard. I returned to my apartment to client emails and quiet. But the quiet felt different now. Not absence, but space. Sundays became sacred. Jenny's lasagna disasters, Lily's sticky fingerprints on my windows, Michael's terrible dad jokes. We built altars of normalcy. Movie nights, pumpkin patches, a photo wall of Lily's scribbled masterpieces. The letter arrived 6 months later, forwarded by Marcus in a plain envelope. I traced its edges for an hour before slitting it open. Emma, no excuses. We failed you. The counseling. It's making us see things. Hurts, but we deserve it. We'll stay away. If someday you want to hear sorry, we'll be here. If not, we understand. Dad. No demands. No Bible verses. Just stark, sterile accountability. Michael's letter mirrored mine. Over burnt garlic bread, we dissected them. Manipulation, guilt, progress, but settled on uneasy truce. Maybe they're trying, he mumbled. Still doesn't mean we let them in. I keep the letter buried in my desk beneath tax files and takeout menus. Not as an olive branch, but as a relic. Proof that after 30 years, they finally saw me. Not as a debtor, a pawn, or a ghost, but as a force. Some nights, I open the drawer, run a finger over the creased paper, and let myself taste the irony. Their surrender letter became my victory flag. Lily's 4th birthday cracked open my apartment like a piñata. Balloons colonized the ceiling, strings dangling like rainbow tentacles. A 3-tiered cake, chocolate ganache, gold leaf sprinkles, Princess Lily, piped in cursive, sat regally on the counter, ordered from the bakery that once fired me for burning croissants. Presents teetered in a Technicolor avalanche. Stuffed unicorns, finger paints, a tiny guitar Jenny would later regret. Lily careened through the chaos in a tulle tornado, her crown slipping sideways, frosting smeared across her chin like war paint. Jenny snapped photos, her laughter harmonizing with the playlist of Disney remixes. Michael manned the grill on my balcony, smoke curling around his Kiss the Chef apron as friends drifted in with bottles of wine and off-key renditions of Happy Birthday. I slipped into the kitchen, leaning against the fridge to absorb it all. The squeals, the off-key singing, the way the afternoon light gilded the mess. Through the doorway, Michael spun Lily in dizzying circles, her giggles piercing the air like fireworks. Jenny's head tipped back in unfiltered joy at something her college roommate whispered. My apartment, once a museum of silence. Its walls papered with receipts and survival, thrummed with a life I'd never dared to imagine. The memory surfaced like a ghost. That note on the counter yellowed and brittle. You'll figure it out. And I had, not as they'd intended, not as a feral child scrabbling for scraps, but as an architect. Family wasn't a cage of blood and obligation. It was this. Chosen, loud, messy, alive. No, nothing's perfect. Therapy still anchors my Tuesdays. Nightmares still ambush me. Storage unit shadows, the YMCA's echoing showers, fists pounding doors. Sometimes I still mute unknown callers, still jump at delivery knocks. But healing isn't linear. It's Lily gluing mismatched sequins to a cardboard crown and declaring it perfect. It's Michael burning burgers and Jenny's wine-stained hugs. It's the way we've mosaicked ourselves from shards. Broken, but fused. When people ask about reconciliation, about forgiveness, about grandparents denied, I shrug. Maybe. Maybe not. The truth is, it no longer consumes me. I'm not the girl they left. I'm the woman who turned abandonment into a foundation, who learned love isn't something you earn. It's something you build, brick by brick, laugh by laugh, Sunday dinner by Sunday dinner. The answer's etched in Lily's cake-smeared grin, in Michael's I'm sorry hugs, in Jenny's Auntie M more glitter demands. I'm not defined by their abandonment. I'm defined by what grew in its ruins.